Hey folks, on this episode of ELK Talk, we're going to go into the details of the post-rut period, one of the harder times to kill a bull elk. In fact, I would say the hardest time to kill a bull elk. Post-rut is usually sometime from, early October to the end of October, when the transition is happening, where the rut is starting to give way to, I need to survive. This is when a lot of the rifle seasons of the West are open, is in October. In this entire series here, we've been talking about where to find mature bull elk on public land. We're not talking about where to find raghorns, spikes. Those are gonna be with the cows pretty much all times of the year. We're talking about where are you gonna find the mature bulls in heavily pressured areas. As we talked about in the peak rut period, the priority of needs was breeding. Now, as the calendar starts to roll into October, breeding becomes lower on the priority list because most of the cows have been bred. And even the few that haven't been bred, a lot of those old bulls, they know how vulnerable they are by hanging out with cows. They watched old Fred get shot last year. So they're saying, you know what, we're gonna leave those few remaining cows to the young guys. And we're gonna start going to our sanctuary locations. And remember, I talked about the four needs: food, water, breeding, sanctuary, security, survival, whatever you wanna call it. So we're going from a period where breeding was number one to now a period, the post-rut, where sanctuary and survival is the number one need. You're gonna find the elk in a completely different location than what you found them in just a few weeks earlier in the peak rut period. And when I say sanctuary, survival, I'm talking about the ugly, nasty, hard to get to places. I'm talking about places that, due to distance or topography, other hunters don't wanna go there. Hunting the post-rut period is very much like hunting the late season. Other than, in my mind, it's harder because the elk have not yet concentrated themselves in these easier to identify sanctuary locations. They're a little bit more spread out. They're holding in super small pockets. They're not in the bachelor groups of 4 to 5. You don't have snow usually to help you see tracks, to read tracks, to force them. You don't have cold weather that forces them to stay up and feed longer. If you can fill your tag on the post-rut hunt every year, year after year, you are probably in that top echelon of elk hunters. To find elk in the post-rut period, I take my map and I just cross off anything that's within a mile of a road or trail. And after I do that, I don't have too much terrain left on my map to look. And now I know, okay, he's recovering from the rut, so after sanctuary, food is gonna be his next priority. Where is a place that, because of topography or distance, he's gonna feel safe and there's gonna be food nearby? And he doesn't need a big meadow. In fact, very seldom are you gonna find bulls in these big wide open parks in the post-rut or late season. At least not smart bulls that have made it through the seasons. This guy's figured it out. So I'm looking for fringe areas that maybe are slides, maybe a small burn, maybe whatever it might be that creates a small opening. He will bed somewhere nearby that has a lot of security, a lot of cover. Maybe it's blowdown, maybe it's rock, maybe it's whatever. And he'll get up in that last half hour of the evening and he'll start working his way to feed. He'll feed there till dark or through dark, and as daylight comes, he might stay out there for another half hour of daylight, and he's going back to this bed. He's not moving very far. This bull in the post-rut period, weather does not force him to do things that he is uncomfortable with. Hunting pressure pushes him into a place where he's just laying there thinking, listening, smelling. He doesn't have a bunch of cows with him. For me, I'm looking for the places, and it's usually because People don't want to climb something that steep, or they don't want to walk that far where I'm going to find elk. In this post-rut period, it is a well before the sun comes up, get to the truck well after the sun is down. You have to be comfortable with that. If you're not comfortable with that, success is going to be hard to come by. You're hunting very narrow windows. And a lot of times when I'm hunting this post-rut period, I show up and I've got a bunch of places on my map of potential spots for an elk. And I'm mostly glassing for these elk. And a lot of times I will glass and know that even if I saw an elk in one of these 3 spots on my map, I probably couldn't get there to kill that bull before dark. But I'm gonna glass, and if I see him, I'm gonna make note of that, and I'm gonna be in there well before sunup the next morning, and I'm gonna kill that elk as he's coming to his bed. Or it might be, I see that elk early in the morning when I'm up in my glassing spot, and I see him go to bed that morning, and maybe it takes me 3 hours to get over there, but I'm gonna go over there and get in position, because he's gonna be very habitual this time of year. He's not going to do anything that exposes him to more danger than necessary. So if I go over there and I get set up somewhere in a shooting location from where he went into bed in the morning, the odds are, and it might be at the last little bit of light, he's gonna come out and I'm gonna be there to shoot him. And in this time of year, a lot of people think, oh, it's gotta be dark timber, it's gotta be dark timber. Dark timber does provide a sanctuary benefit to elk, but usually it doesn't provide much in the way of a food benefit. So for me, I'm looking for rock piles, I'm looking for steepness, I'm looking for places that are maybe 5 miles in or 4 miles in. I'm looking for other places that hunters don't want to go.